Well, we are coming into the end of the day here. This is really not the way I usually do a video, but we kind of had a hectic day today. Today was our first full day of chopping. Yesterday we didn't get going until later on because it had rained the day before. And then the day before that we didn't chop anything. And then on the first day we got going late because we had some merger issues. So what we're going to be doing right now, I'm filling with fuel. It is Saturday night. I'm just going to run around it with the leaf blower here, get all that dry hay and whatever off of it, and then come first thing in the morning, I'll end up sharpening the knives. We'll walk over, we'll look at the hay here in a minute. We're on the Hudson farm. You can see the barns in behind me. And when we do our hay crop, we end up going in the direction where it kind of puts us here like the second or the third day in this location. We work kind of in a big circle, and we have to fuel and do this kind of thing out and away from home. Now this morning when we set off, we ended up blowing the chopper off at home because I was a little closer to home when I chopped yesterday. So we're gonna throw this backpack blower on, and then we'll discuss what problems we ran into here earlier on today once I get done blowing this machine off here. So we're into the following day here now. It is actually Sunday morning now, and we've got this 7200 that's on this 330 merger, and it has a hydraulic oil leak. The number 2 SCVs need to have the new cartridges put in to it, so we're going to get that in there. They've got oil dumped in it. It lost all the oil yesterday, the hydraulic oil, and they had to put oil in it to see where it was leaking from, and it's leaking from number 2 SCV. So we're going to pull the covers off, pull the cartridges out, put a pair of new cartridges in there, and then hopefully that takes care of that problem. Now, we had an issue with these mergers the other day, and the heads were tipped down too far. We didn't realize we had that problem when we did all the work on these mergers this winter, because we didn't have a crop to try it on. And with these new teeth on here, they're a little longer than the old ones that came off, and we didn't realize that we had the problem that we had. And what had been happening, or what happened to them, was they were tipped down too far, and they were digging in. It had nothing to do with the hitch height, because we tried that. It had to do with a hydraulic pressure setting on the hydraulic accumulators that float the head. And we had, on the other merger, we had a spool valve that had an O-ring gone on it that we didn't know about. So we're going to go ahead and change these cartridges out, and then we're going to sharpen the knives on the chopper. And while we're working on this, we'll kind of discuss what happened yesterday with a couple of the trucks. So we already blew all the crap off of here. So we just have to take these Allen screws out to get the cover off this back side. Basically a simple job. Yesterday we had a couple of issues with trucks. We had an alternator that went on truck 18, and Travis, he ended up having to run to Syracuse to get an alternator from one of the Napa stores. And while he was out in Syracuse grabbing an alternator, Tim had a fan belt go on truck 14. So he later seen that the alternator on truck 14 was seized up. And that's a new alternator. That alternator we just put on that truck here a month or so ago. Wasn't that long ago. So he ended up calling Travis, and Travis was able to pick up an alternator for that. Then while that whole problem was going down, we had a chain come off the head on the chopper, which I thought I had a gear, I thought I had a slip clutch that went, but the master link ended up coming out of the chain that drives the auger, the number 80 chain, and spit the chain out the bottom of the head, which that could have caused a lot of damage, but it didn't cause any problems. So I'm gonna have to get some brake clean or hit this with some air again. I better get some brake clean in there. Shouldn't need any air to get them out. So as long as we don't do any welding today, we shouldn't have a problem with that. I can't see. There's a little swirl type snap ring here. There it is right there. That perhaps maybe would be better with a straight. Yeah, that started. Alright. Sometimes you can turn them out. So we got that one out. Now I can't see where this one is. There we are. What do you know? They were both in about the same spot. Now we can pull this out. Just put a hydraulic hose in there. Yank that guy out. Oh, come on now. This might be the problem. Child here. Oh boy. Usually you can get them to pull out of there. However, this one doesn't want to come. Might have clipped her loose there. There we go. We got lucky. Got lucky on that. Sometimes they can be a little bit of a mongrel. There you go. Got your mongrel word for the day. Alright. Now these couplers also have an O-ring that goes in the end that sometimes leaks as well, but on this unit here, they were actually the O-rings that are on the back side. Now you can get O-ring kits to rebuild these, but it's not worth it. They're not worth rebuilding. You just slap the new ones in and go. Some of you might be wondering why we're not doing that. So you can get the O-rings to go in there, and they might be good for a while, but in a short amount of time you'll be having the same problem again. There we go, it just wasn't. Alright, we got that in there. Alright, we've got these in there. Now we're just going to start the tractor up. I'm going to power the SCV. I'm going to do it without hoses in there. And because it would leak even though there wasn't any hoses plugged into it. It was leaking in on the back side and running right out on the ground through this overflow tube. And just like that, the tractor won't start. So we're going to have to get this air hose put away, and we're going to have to swing the Army truck around to the other side and hook up the jumper cables to it. Well, we have a problem with the merger sucking juice out of the tractor there. We had this problem the other day, and I forgot to have these guys unplug the merger cord, and it has killed the battery. So we've got the jumper cables hooked up, and all I have is a battery lead, a lead coming from the batteries on the Army truck. And then we can unplug this, plug into the jumper cables, or plug into the lead, and that goes up to the electric start on the compressor. Now in this compressor and welder unit, we're on that other utility body, we actually had a wire coming from the battery on the welder, and we used the battery on the welder to start the air compressor as well. So we'll give this a little bit of time here to charge up, and we'll get this running, and then we'll see if those cartridges fix the problem. I'm hoping that it did, and then these guys can get merging with this, and we can get down and sharpen the knives on the chopper and get it rolling. The sun is getting hot here now. It is like 80 degrees already. Alright, we have number 2 SCV powered right now, and that is not draining oil out on the ground like it was yesterday down through this tube here. So we're going to get the cover put back on that SCV, plug the hoses in, make sure this merger is going to work, and we'll get down to the chopper. Well, we got this job done. We've got the covers back on there, hoses plugged in, and as you can see, we got this folded up. We've got to pick our pails up here, but right now we better get to the chopper. They're going to be over here in a little while. Andrew and Davey are to start merging, so we've got the other merger at the bottom of the hill here, so we better go ahead and get to the chopper. We've got to run a grease gun around it and sharpen the knives. Alright, we are going to fire up here. And once this comes to life, we'll run the chopper through a knife sharpening process here. Give this a chance to boot up. All right. We go into the cutter head. We're gonna run 30 passes, and then it'll do 4 passes on the finishing cycle. And then we're not gonna set the shear bar after it sharpens. We're gonna look at the knives and make sure that we don't need to run it through another sharpening cycle. So now what's doing is it's spinning the knife drum backwards, 330 to 350 RPMs, and now the stone is sweeping across the knives, and we'll show you what that looks like here right now. Alright, the knives just ended up going through a couple of sharpening cycles. I did a 30, a 20, and then another 20. And they're decent right now. Got a stone chip in that other one. We're into some new seeding right now, so we're gobbling a lot of stones, and we're also on some gravelly ground. So ran the grease gun over the chopper and on the head here, and then we'll show you what chain fell off on the head. There's a big number 80 chain in under this cover, and this master link came out, so it spit the chain right out through the bottom there. I thought I had a slip clutch problem or something, and just lucky that that chain didn't wrap up on something and rip my new grease lines off, or hoses that go to the crop shield and all that crap. So it just very neatly spit it right out the bottom. Didn't hurt the chain. We had a master link in the toolbox on the chopper, and we were able to put that on there and get that going. So now we're going to put the head on, and hopefully we can get some trucks here. This hay is getting dry. We've got the rest of this farm here to do. Across the road, this field, there's a couple of strips there, and then an older seeding on that side of the road. And then we're going to move over to the area where we grabbed all the hardware, the wire and such last year, so it ought to be a fun day today. We're hoping that we're not going to catch that much wire. I'm thinking that we got a majority of it picked up, cleaned up last year. So we're going to have a truck rolling here in a little bit, so we better get this head on there. I had a couple of grease zerks that didn't want to take grease, so I had that Landau grease still in the grease gun, and I cleaned it off of the zerks here and just wiped it on the tire. So hopefully when I go to put this head on, that tire is in a different position, or I'm going to be wearing that grease. These 90-degree temperatures, this hay has gotten away from us. This is all alfalfa, so it doesn't have any grasses in it. And it takes a little bit to cure anyway, so we can't cut it direct, chop it. It needs a little bit of time to dry out. However, once it gets to a certain point, sugars in the alfalfa start coming up the inside of the chopper. So that's what we have going on right now, and if you just mist the hay a little bit with water, it will clean out the transition chute on the choppers, mainly from plugging. So we have pumped about 800 gallons of water so far on the hay. Once we get into the next farm here after this field is done, the hay hasn't been laying on the ground as long. What I'd like to do is get the fertilizer truck. It's got a 3,100 gallon tank and a 700 gallon tank on it. I gotta get the fertilizer cleaned out of those tanks. I've got to get water loaded into that truck, and then we can gravity off of the truck right onto the windrow when we get into these situations. So underneath the guide wire cable here. Slow so as to pump the water direct right into the head of the chopper. My father is driving the army truck. He wants to get cutting some more hay here, but he wants to wait and see if we can get this hay cleaned up first, so that the hay doesn't dry out too much on us tomorrow. So this is twister on it, just gravity flow right off of the truck, right onto the windrow. You don't have to do that much. I have to do all of the hay. But on there right now so as to save the water. We will let him shut down and we'll try to save that little bit of water that's on the tank there and maybe finish the rest of this field out. Here's what it looks like coming out of the pipe now. A little better, but it is dry. Alright, we are moving out of here. We've got the Hudson farm done. It only took us about 3 hours longer than it should have just because of the hay being too dry. Now the farm that we're moving to is the farm that we had all the trouble with the little wire pieces and whatever from the beef cow pastures that used to be at the fencing that used to be up around the beef cow pastures from years ago here. So we picked up a lot of wire last year when we were chopping first and second cutting. Third wasn't too bad, and fourth was decent for the amount of wire that we didn't see in the last two cuttings, but the first two were murderous. So we've got to see how quick we can get it chopped before we cut any more hay here, because it took us about twice as long as what it should have last year when we chopped the first couple of cuttings. So Andrew's calling me now. I better answer his phone call. Him and Davey are merging, and it looks like I've got another car to wait for here anyways. Well, here is the next farm that we have to chop here. This was all new seeding here last year. This field here and the one back there, they're not too bad, and then this next one is decent. But as we get over into the smaller fields, we get into the old beef cow pastures, and of course they've had wire fence around them 25, 30 years ago. So we had picked up a lot of wire here last year with the first couple of cuttings. The second two cuttings got a little better, and I'm hoping that once we get chopping it this year that we don't see any more wire. So we've got to get pulled off this main drag here. I've got probably 50 cars in behind me here. Got my turn signal on, but I got cars that want to come around me anyway. I guess I didn't do too bad for traffic. Got Auburn Eggs, got a sign up here. Alright, so we've got one handy telephone line that goes down across the center of this field, which is nice. So now we've got to remind all the truck drivers that they cannot drive underneath that. So Andrew and Davey, they've got this all merged, and they're working down in on the other side there of this private road. So let's see how she rolls here. Well, so far so good, but this field didn't have much wire in it. The moisture's a little on the dry side. The harvest slab, which is on the pipe right there, That's got a sensor window in it with the actual lab itself hooked right to the blower pipe, and that's what reads the constituents on the feed going through the pipe. It's also reading moisture. However, it is glazed over with the alfalfa caked up stuff, so I'm really not able to see what the actual moisture is of the hay going through the chopper, but it has got to be around 44 or 5%. We've been picking up a few stones here and there. This has got some shaly rock on it here. You can kind of see a bare spot right there. But other than that, we've been doing pretty good. I'm not going as fast as I normally would, because once you get a piece of metal, cutter head shuts off, you end up pushing a whole windrow of hay up in front of you. Then you got a mess to ease into so that you don't plug it on the startup. So the kids are just getting done merging. They're fueling off of the green truck right now. And I'm loading my nephew Fitzy, who is running truck 12 here. So we've got a low-lying wire here that they had to merge around all these telephone poles, and now I've got to have both hands here so I can get zigzagged up through this one windrow here. Alright, so we just got done loading Tim there on the far side of that little hedgerow there where you see a few trees. And we actually have this broke up into two fields. There's a pond right there in the middle that's in behind this restaurant. And I have flown over to the far side of the field. Now, when I seeded this down in 2019, we were supposed to get a pretty good sized rainstorm, and I was over here early in the morning. Whatever date that was, I forget when it was. But at any rate, you could see lightning off to the west, and I put up a Mavic Pro drone that I had, and I wanted to get some shots of the lightning off in the background as I was going up across the middle of this field with the grain drill. And I had the drone over about as far as I am right now in this field here, and I was flying sideways and backwards at the same time, and I ended up putting a drone up in one of these trees here right alongside this. Well, it's actually a hedgerow. It looks like it's the woods, but there's a hedgerow here between this field and a bunch of houses. And I can't recall exactly what tree I put that drone up in, but the drone ended up getting caught on a tree branch, and I'll put a link in the description, or I'll put up a card here or something. We ended up bringing a man lift over to get the drone out of the tree. We had the telehandler over here, but it was up too high. I tried pulling the branch down that it was caught on, and that wasn't working. And it had gotten rained on, but I wanted that SD card out of it bad. So we've got this field here. We're actually shutting down for the night. We've got this field here. It's all merged up. And this property here used to be owned by the Dells, actually Sam Dell, and they owned a large, well, they owned about all the car dealerships in the area here. Back 25-30 years ago, and they actually, the restaurant might own some of this, I don't know. But at any rate, we're going to be going over the actual Sam Dell houses here, and they ran beef cows on this tract of land here, and they ended up having high tensile wire fences that went around all of these fields. Now we ended up chopping 3 fields off here already. We've got that one right there chopped off. We've got this smaller one here, and then the one that we're over the top of, and we'll fly over the rest of it here. We don't have all of it cut. The boys do have everything that is cut merged, and over in these smaller fields is the fields that we're gonna end up picking all the wire up in. Last year during first and second cutting, it was murderous. Third cutting wasn't so bad. Fourth cutting was a little better, but I just wanted to fly over the top of all these little fields. There's about 140 acres here all together, and as you can see, these other fields here, they're not cut. They've got cut around the outsides, and the thinking there is we chop around them, and if I have trouble with metal, at least I'm not wasting my time and having all of that hay in the middle of the field drying out on us. So we're just kind of coming around the whole complex here, and that about wraps that up. The houses are right there in the middle, and then there's one field to the back that looked like he cut around that at all, but it must have been one heck of a area here 25-30 years ago when everything was all gated in and fenced in. They've got their own private road here, goes over to 321, and it goes out onto Route 5. So I'm going to get the drone flown back to where I am. I'm going to service up the chopper. It's just about 7 o'clock here now. Alright folks, that is going to do it for this video. I'm going to get fuel in this chopper and blow it off while it's fueling. And that should do it for this one. Remember to hit the thumbs up if you like these videos. Drop a comment down below. And we'll see you at the next video. Take it easy, folks.